Alright, welcome back. Thanks for joining me on Tuesday, Butt-tober 9th, 2018. Forgive me if I'm squirming around a little bit here. I had a little tiny spider has come down from the ceiling here and seems to be working on something pretty hard, and I don't want to disturb him. So if you don't mind, we're going to let him go and keep on going. And let's get into what we've got today. We're going to be taking some tracks off the Butthole Server's first album with a major label. They left Touch and Go and signed with Capitol Records. And on top of that, Capitol Records had John Paul Jones, the bassist from Led Zeppelin, actually produced this album. I know he produced the following album as well. I don't know beyond that, but he started with him on this one. And as I understand it, he didn't have too much influence on them on this first album, but you can really kind of hear the rockin' stuff on the following album. We'll get into that tomorrow, so don't worry about it. But this first album they put out is called, I've always called it PIOUGHD, for lack of a better understanding, because the album is titled, it's just the letters PIOUGHD. So you can kind of make what you want out of that. PIOUGHD's what I've been calling it for 15, 20 years, so I'm not going to change it now. But, you know, and the thing about this album that I've always said is that it hardly ranks as an album because, there's 13 tracks, all right? So we've got 13 tracks. Notice I said tracks and not songs because tracks 1 and 2 are Revolution Part 1, which is basically just a couple-minute intro, to track 2, which is Revolution Part 2, which is a real song. And then we have Lonesome Bulldog, which is fantastic, and that's actually the first track we're going to listen to today. But then there's also Lonesome Bulldog 2, and Lonesome Bulldog 3, and Lonesome Bulldog 4. So 6 out of the 13 songs are really just variations on the same 2 songs. But whatever, you know, it just always kind of caught me as a surprise that they signed with this album, signed with Capitol Records, and they put this, I said, okay, here's the album, and it's kind of a lot of the same stuff over and over, just kind of rehashed, and they kept them on, so it must have done pretty well, I guess. But yeah, so the first track we're going to get into, Lonesome Bulldog. Like every other song that I've mentioned to you so far, definitely one of my favorites. It's another sort of epic tale type of song where Gibby's telling a story of some sort, and it's hard to make out, it's hard to understand or really follow the, well, maybe it's more concise and more clear than some of the other epic threads he weaves, the webs that he weaves, if you will. It's a little more comprehensive, but you know, I don't think you could make a movie or a book out of it. Maybe a book, maybe not a movie. These days, though, it's hard to say. Anyway, Lonesome Bulldog, amazing song. There are some lines in there that I have been using, even not around Butthole Surfer fans, for years, because I really love that song so much. Some great work. The second song we're going to listen to is, again, we're getting back into this favorite thing. I should have come up with like a scale, like, you know, how many Paul Learys does this rate on your scale? 5 Paul Learys, you know, 1 to 10. This one's a 10 Paul Learys on this imaginary scale just made up. Musically, it's just unbelievable. And actually, so the song's called P.S.Y. on the album. if you listen to the double live album that we had yesterday, the second song they played is an earlier version of this song, which I've actually seen several live recordings of them playing that song. The biggest difference is that there are no vocals until it came out on this album, as far as I've seen. On the double live, there's no vocals. It's just a 8-minute long musical, jam. Basically, that's why it's called psychedelic jam. But as much as I love the live version and just the musicality of it, because it's truly fantastic, the vocals add a lot to this. And there's not a lot. There's a little bit at in the first minute or two. Gibby has a little bit of vocals going on. Then he backs off, and there's like a 4-minute long jam session. It's a psychedelic jam session. And about 6.5 minutes into it, he comes back, and it's the song kind of shifts gears suddenly, and the vocals there are just astounding. It's unbelievable. I love the way he sings this song. Is all songs, but this one in particular. And I gotta say, I feel like this song is maybe looked past a lot. I don't know, even among my friends who are Butthole Surfers fans, when we get together and start talking about surfer stuff, we talk about Lonesome, Bulldog and Sweat Loaf and things like that. But I feel like this one doesn't come up very often, and that hopefully maybe they'll change that, because I want you to really listen to the song. It's an amazing one. I think it's like 12 minutes or something like that. Beautiful, absolutely wonderful. And then I think I'm actually going to throw. I haven't looked yet, but if I can find it, we're going to throw the last track on there today too, off this album, which is just called "Barking Dogs," and it's a lot of noise and chaos and weirdness, and that just kind of reiterates my statement that this hardly qualifies as an album. It's more of like a lengthy single that's been drawn out. But we're going to do the Barking Dogs for that reason, and because my dogs are walking around here, and luckily they're not barking, so we lucked out on that one. So I hope you enjoy these songs. We're going to get into another super, super fun, super awesome album tomorrow. I'm very excited about that. But don't let that overshadow P.S.Y. You're going to love this. Sit back, get yourself a nice drink, put on some headphones, gather the family around, whatever. Listen to that song. You're going to love it. So thanks again. We do have a Reddit thread up and going. I'll show you that link as we head out. Keep in mind, it is not an actual link. Do not try and push it on your phone. I just wrote it on a whiteboard, and I'm holding it up for you to see. So you have to either remember it really well or scribble it down real fast. But I imagine if you typed in Butt-tober to Reddit as a search, you would. I'm willing to bet there's nothing else close to that. So thanks again. We will see you guys tomorrow. Say goodbye to the spider. He says 1, 2, butthole. So thanks again, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.